In our chess set modeling series, in this video, we're going to focus on creating the knight. The knight is one of the most complex pieces to model in the chess set and the most organic. So in this model, in the series, we're going to start really getting into like much deeper organic modeling and beginning the first elements of digital sculpting. So as you see, the mesh is much more complex than we've been modeling for most pieces. And there's all kinds of, modulations in the surface. There's complexity of the surface. There's added resolution. So we're going to be using pretty much most all the tools that we've been learning so far in the semester. So go back to the model. This is modeled the same way as all other models with image plane. Here's your image plane. It's right here. So I can pick it over here in the outliner. There, you can see it right there. So that's just, if I switch off the model, here's our image plane. So that's how we've been doing all our pieces to date. Okay. So, and also too, I have imported in a base mesh here. So what I did was, and I went over this in one of the other lessons, in the Rook lesson, as to how to use parts. So this is the same base I created in the Rook lesson. So I have this here. I'm going to put it on a layer so we can switch it on and off when we want to. Okay. I have my layers all organized here. It's always good to have all your layers, because your layers, you can control things. So you can turn things on, turn things off. Okay. So we have our image plane. If I want to turn that off, there it is. Okay. So the interesting thing here is I'm going to create this model. So you can see I've merged the base in there. This is the final model. And if I switch that off, this is what I started with. I started with this little cube here. Okay. So pretty much you can make almost any model in Maya with polygonal modeling with the system, what we've called box modeling. And so this is literally what box modeling is. I've mentioned this quite a few times, but it literally is starting with a box, a cube. Okay. So pretty much what you would do is you would, first thing is you would switch on your image plane. Okay. Now you have your cube here. Okay. We know we have our base over here, so we don't need to model anything here. So we're going to start the model up at about this level. Okay. So I'm going to switch off the base part. Let's pick on the cube. I'm going to move it up. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is you want to just block out your form. So you're going to get just some like a cube. You're going to turn to rectangular. You're going to kind of scale it up, non-proportionally scale it to kind of roughly fit the model that you want to create here. Okay. So I'm going to go to my scale tool. First, I'm going to scale it up to roughly the width I want it. Then I'm going to start non-proportionally scaling it. Okay. So I'm starting to see that it's going beyond there. So maybe I want to move it up a little bit. Here's where, I could put the pivot down here if I like, but this is so simple. I'm not going to bother with that. Okay. So I'm going to do this. Okay. This is roughly the form I want to get here. Okay. I might scale it in a little bit because you'll see. I'm actually just going to scale it to here, and I'll show everybody what we're going to do here. Okay. And there we go. All right, so this is the basic form here. I kind of want 3 subdivisions. So I'm going to show you when I need those. So I need a subdivision here, and I need a subdivision here. So if I want them, or even this object was made just now. So what I can do is I can just give it some subdivisions. So I'm going to give it just some height subdivisions. Okay. So you can't really see it too within there. Yeah, there you go. There's the lines there. Now, the reason I did this, you're going to see this in a minute. I'm going to pull the horse's face out. Okay. So I'm going to do an extrusion here. Okay, so I'm going to go to our modeling toolkit, pick a face. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's see. Did I scale it in the wrong direction? Because that face is there. Let me try rotating the model. Hold on 1 second. Oh, you know what? Let me be in object mode. That's probably going to help me. There we go. Okay. Yeah, the model is rotated around a little bit. All right. So let's just check. Let's make sure I'm catching the right. Okay, so I want to be here. There we go. Okay, now the model was turned around a little bit. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to pull this face out, and I'm going to make basically a kind of pull its snout out. So let me go back to scaling it. Let me get the scale correct here. I'm going to scale this in for a bit, and we're going to start moving polygons around here. Okay, so then I'm going to pick on the face of this object. There we go. Yeah, now everything's okay. All right, so now I can just pull on this face. So I'm going to do an extrusion. So I'll do extrude. I'm going to pick on my little dot there. I'm going to just extrude out. This is just a mock-up for the face here. Okay, that's all that is. Okay, so now I have this. Okay, and let me go back here to the channel. Let me turn this off. I have a base here. I had I actually pre-made some of these before. Did an extrusion, and then this is the next phase I want to get to, and I'm going to show you what I did here. Okay, now this part is really important. This is when you kind of get the rough form, and you want to be modeling at about this resolution. You really just want to be getting the volumes all correct. So you can see it right here. This is very useful here. Let me reference it. Okay, so you want to be moving these points around. Okay, so let me show you how that was done here with the cube. Okay, so now here is where this little modeling toolkit or modeling by component that I've been going over all the time this semester, this is where this stuff's going to become really important. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to be picking points, and with your modeling tools, I'm going to move this, and you're going to basically move points to fill in these volumes here. Okay, so you're going to go to the edges of your image planes. Okay, I'm going to do that. This. We're going to move this here. We're going to move that all the way over there. Move this up a little bit. Move this over here. Actually, we'll do it here. Okay. We're going to move the jaw piece there. Okay. Move this piece here. Okay. So now you're starting to see a little bit of, let me turn off the image plane. And you're starting to see that form there. Okay. And you do this at this stage. This is super important. Especially when people start modeling at first, they start adding resolution, they start putting stuff in, they start going into details. Don't do that. Just go step by step. It's very procedural. Go as simple as possible for as long as possible, because when you start adding more resolution here, it's going to be much more difficult to pull points around. This is the nice spot. You can just literally, I can, kind of change, if I wanted to just change the form of the head right there. Okay. And this is where your image planes start becoming important. I mean, this is where we might have been discussing this over the semester, but if you really want to make a model look like something, this is where this all comes into play. Okay, so now you see here, we kind of have the rough form here. And if I switched on the base, you can already see we're starting to, get part of the model. Okay, so then what you would do is we would then get to a state like this. Okay, so let me switch off the cube. what I would do is I would keep subdividing. Okay, so you and you just do it bit by bit. So you would go in here, and this part of modeling is a lot of fun. Okay, so let me go back to switch the cube part on. Well, I can switch the base off just to make it a little easier for us. And what you're going to do is let me put the image plane on in this view. It might be useful. Okay, here's also too, this is good to see when you have to kind of, you're switching things around a lot. Like, okay, so here, I want to see that. I could put in my little X-ray mode if I wanted. See, so I can kind of see what's going on. Okay, it depends what you like. I mean, you might not like this, but this is, how you would access all these things, right? So here's what you would do is now you can start using your insert edge loop tool. So you're going to insert edge loop. Now you'll start putting these little loops in. Okay, you start popping them in. That's it. You just go up to mesh tools, go to insert edge loop. You just get it. Now I'm actively in that tool. You can see this is always the active tool over here, and you just pick on an edge you want to make a cross line on. Okay, so like here, let me show you like this part. This is how I'm going to make this part, and this is how you would keep doing this. Okay, and you're going to switch around. You're not going to be doing the same thing all the time. What I would do is go into this view, and if you go now, when you do this, when you're kind of making out the profiles and you're kind of moving things to the edges of the image plane, you definitely want to work with vertices. Okay, so let me pick on the object. Okay. So here, let me get some of the, for some reason, what's going on here? It is doing something weird. Oh, I know why. I always say this. Don't be in, watch out with edge loop tool. Edge loop tool is very tricky. Once you do use edge loop tool, always make sure to get out. I always do this to get out, and I've forgotten my own rule, which I've been telling everybody. So then make sure you're in pick mode or in move mode. Okay, here we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now here's what I'm doing. I'm kind of picking these points really carefully, moving them. I might want to move this here, and you'll see why, because I need to keep the cross sections going here. Okay, I'm going to continue. So let me go back, and then I can also use multi-cut. So multi-cut is another way you can actually add edge loops. And if you want to add an edge loop, like right now, if you did multi-cut, it would just cut across a single polygon. But if you want to make it cut an edge loop, remember, you always hold down the control key. Okay. And if you want it to hit right in the midline, you can interactively put it anywhere you want. But if you want to hit it the midline, you just use the control key and mid mouse button. Okay. Now, this is tricky at first to get used to. So don't worry if like edge loops and all this kind of stuff, you kind of, it's a little tricky to deal with at first. Okay, so now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be moving this stuff around. So I'm going to move this here. I'm going to move this here. Move this here. You just keep doing this. And this stuff is, like I said, it's kind of fun, a little tedious. Some people like it, some people don't. Most people like it because it's quite immediate. So here we go. We're going to move that. And if you notice, I am in a side view, because what happens here, so if I'm in a side view, if I go picking over here, it's just going to pick on a single plane there. When I'm doing it here, like I want to move everything this direction. So if I pick it by window here, it selects straight through to the other side. Okay. You see over here? So I've selected over here and I select over here. Okay. This takes a little while to get used to, but once you do, you'll like it. So then I'm going to move it in there. Okay. And then I've showed everybody the symmetry tool as well. I will show it to you again. So let's say I want to let's say I want to start scaling some of these things. Well, I'm going to scale the whole model first. So I'm going to make it into edge mode first. I'm going to use the scale tool. I'm just eyeballing it because I don't have a front view of a horse. So I'm just going to say, well, this is kind of like the median of what my horse model is going to look like there. Okay. Here, let me show you a way. I know that I'm going to be pulling this out because you need more volume here on the sides of the horse. So let me put in an edge loop right in the middle here. Okay. So I'm going to be, I'm using my control key, control middle mouse button. Okay. And now I got a perfect little edge there. So now, now I'm actually in a mode where I kind of like need to be, I need to be modeling on each side, right? But I can't see the other side. So let me turn this off, X-ray mode. Okay, so let me show you. We've discussed this before, but I'll do symmetry. I know, am I in the X direction? Let me see if I'm in symmetry. So if I go to symmetry, I go to object X. If I picked on a point there, okay, so that's not in the X direction. So you have to pick and figure out what direction your symmetry is, or you can do world. Yeah, like just do, I would suggest doing world for now if your thing is on the right axis. Object mode sometimes gets a little confused if you've moved the object because it's remembering its old object space. But this is the kind of stuff, again, all these things you got to just poke around and just play with. And I've told everybody too to start with like a cube or something very simple and just play with these tools first. Okay, so now here's something that's going to be interesting. You're going to see I'm going to pull this on this side, but you notice it's doing the same exact thing on the other side. This becomes really useful because like the snout here. Okay, so maybe I want to, horse's snout has, horse's face has kind of modulates in a little bit at this point. Okay, and maybe I want to pull these points out a little bit. Okay, so you see what's going on. Now I'm starting to model what I'm starting with symmetry. I'm starting to make what the rough shapes of what a horse's face looks like. And definitely when you're doing this kind of stuff, like you not only just the image plane I have here, but if you have modeling reference, that's always good. So if you have just, on the side there, have an image of a horse. Feel like? Okay, so you just keep doing this, right? Keep going, and you keep going, like you keep adding and adding. And keep it simple for now. Like, most of you are, pretty new modelers. So don't try and get as crazy, don't go too far with this. I mean, if you can, that's fine. But let me get back to the layers here. Let me switch off this one here, and I'll switch off the image plane for now. Let me go to what level? Okay, so this is basically I just kept pulling and tugging, right? Until I got to that level. Okay, so now if I get to this level, this is when I start subdividing a little bit more. Like I've fine-tuned it a little bit, and I start putting these little details inside the model. And let me show you. I'm just going to show you how to do this stuff very roughly. Don't get too caught up on this yet. This is a little trickier stuff that we're going to get into later on when we start, especially when we do character modeling. This stuff gets a little bit more interesting. But let me show you what will happen if you how we would, let me put a cross section in here. I'll turn off symmetry. I'm going to put in one little cut here. I'm just do this just quickly for this one little demo purpose here. Okay, I'm going to use so I'm holding my control key, and I want this to snap right into the midline of this. So what I'm going to do is then I use the mid mouse button. Okay, so there we go. So basically what I'm going to do now is, let me get out of that tool. I'm going to show you how to make that little eye element. Okay. Actually, I think I had it in this one here. Then it doesn't really matter. I mean, like I said, I'm going to do a much more detailed version of this at some point. Okay, so you hit extrude. So this is interesting. This is extruding a face, and I've demoed it once. And here it is in action. So this is how you would make the beginnings of an eye. Okay. You would extrude in here, because see, now this is an independent face. I can do stuff with this. Like I can like push it in. I could make a, I could pick this again and I could extrude that. Now don't get too worried if you have, you know, if this is a little unusual to you at first. I can pull it out. So now you see, I'm getting the rudiments of an eye over there, okay? And this is the same methodology I would use for making the ear here. So let me put a subdivision in. Let me split the model. Okay, because I need the ear, I need an ear. I need a place to start here for that ear, okay? All right, so I'm gonna just pull something up quick for this one. So here I'm gonna hit this face here, and I'm gonna go to extrude, and I'm gonna pull this up, right? So I'm gonna do something interesting here. I'm gonna actually, I haven't showed you too much about how to use these controls while you're doing something, but here I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna give it 3 subdivisions. Okay, so my extrusion now is going to have 3 subdivisions. Okay, so this is stuff you can do while this thing is active. Okay, and I know the ear kind of goes that way, right? And I can also kind of start rotating parts of it. Okay, you see, so I'm making now the rudiments of the ear, right? And I can now like some of these edge loops. Let's pull it. Well, first we'll pull faces over a little bit. And don't get worried if you're not getting this. This is starting to get to be some kind of more sophisticated stuff. So, but I'm just kind of showing it to everybody, okay? And you might get it. I mean, you might be fine with this. But this is how you would start, you know, just roughing in stuff like this. And here, let me show you with an edge loop. So I can double click on this. There's my edge loop, all right? I'm just gonna scale it down. So you see, there's the beginnings of a horse ear. Well, this looks more like a donkey ear, but you kind of model things first, like kind of bigger and grander, and then you kind of change things. Okay, so now you can start, you know, fine tuning stuff, right? And this is how like all this kind of sophisticated polygon modeling stuff works. Okay, so this is where you start seeing the power of this stuff, like. Okay, so that's the beginnings of that. Let me get back to layers. Like I said, this can take hours to do. So let me get back to, here was a very basic level version of it. Okay, so this is when I kind of got everything into place. I had used the smooth tool. So what I did was I picked it. So I go back to the modeling toolkit and I had picked the model. Okay, and let me unreference the model. Okay, so I picked the model. Oops. I kind of want to be in this mode here. And you would use your smooth tool. So I've already done that. I've already done that to another version of the model. Okay. And now let me go back. Turn this one on. So then here, this one I kind of fine tuned. So if you notice, like here, I'd already kind of made like kind of the inner piecings of it, like inside of the ear canal and the eye has gotten a little more sophisticated here. And after this, now I will probably give it another level of subdivision, and then we would go in with some of the kind of the sculpting tools. And then before it got too complex, I merged it in with the base, because if you go too far, then it's going to get a little more tough for you. Okay, so this is kind of, yeah, this is kind of the beginning of digital sculpting. We'll go on, you know, we'll do more and more of this. You know, we're going to do things like actually literally sculpting on the object, and some of the soft selection tools. You know, we'll get more and more into that in the next lessons. Okay, but so yeah, so this is the beginning of digital sculpting and organic sculpting, and the the knight model. Okay. Let's get it out here. Get everybody. I always like to have everything zoomed out. Actually, you know what? Let me do this. Shift F. All right, there we go. Now I have everybody zoomed out. So generally, when I finish a model, I like to kind of have everything zoomed out. So then you save it, and then you quit out, and then when you open it up again, then it's exactly the way you wanted it. Okay. All right. So there you go. That's kind of the methodology if you get to doing some of the organic stuff like the knight, but bishop might actually, you might be able to play around with this too. All right. There we go.